This is part 3 and our final part for our sock monkeys. Today we are going to be attaching the eyes and also creating and attaching the arms and the tail. Today what you will need is your incomplete monkey, your remaining sock, a needle and thread, your 2 buttons, a chopstick or a pencil or pen. You may need some pins and a pair of scissors. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut both our tail and our arms. So the arms are going to come from that ankle part of the sock, so that it's going to be similar to our legs and our feet. And then the tail is going to be from the foot and toe part of the sock. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that ankle part of our sock off. And you want it to be shorter than what the legs were. So I may actually cut one more stripe off. It doesn't have to be perfect. If your arms end up being the same size as your legs, it's not the end of the world. And then I'm just going to cut right down the middle. And what I'm actually going to do for mine, just because I have that seam with my stripe, is I'm going to match it up like that. And I'm going to cut down that seam of my stripe. But if you don't have a seam or you don't really care about the seam, you can just cut right down the middle of that ankle part of your sock. Okay, and just like with our feet, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to round my ends off a little bit, just so I can get a little more shape for my arms. But this is not a necessary step. If you don't want to do that, or you're having trouble getting your scissors through the fabric because it is a little thicker, that's fine. All right, so there are my 2 arms. And then for my tail, I'm going to cut it from kind of that top part of the foot. Okay, and your tail can be as long as you want it to be, really. But I'm going to cut right about here. I'm going to make a nice long tail. Why not? All right, it's up to you how long you want your tail to be. I'm noticing that it was a little thicker here, so I'm gonna trim that a little bit so that I have a nice uniform tail. Okay, so there are my pieces. You can discard of these pieces. You are all finished with your socks. Now what we're going to do is, just like with any other project, we want to make sure that it is right sides together or the inside out. And I'm going to get my needle and thread together, just like we did with sewing the legs. We can use double thickness. So we're going to match up our ends. Tie a knot. One thing that I don't think I mentioned is that you also will need stuffing. You will need the remaining of your stuffing so that you can stuff your arms and your tail. What I am going to do is I'm just going to start with my stitching. I'm going to start at the bottom because you want to make sure that you leave this top part open so that you'll be able to put stuffing in it and you'll be able to attach it to your monkey. So with that blanket stitch, once again, I want to make sure that I get all my layers up top here. I'll start in my one corner. I'll go right where I started my stitching, but before I pull it all the way through, I make sure that I pull my needle through that loop. And I just continue with that blanket stitch all the way along the edges of the arms and the tail. And with this, you just are leaving that bottom cut edge open. So it'll be this one here, this one here. Our tail, you want to start your stitching from where the toe is, and you'll finish your stitching leaving an opening right here. I have my tail along with my two arms. I'm going to put a little bit of stuffing in it, sort of like the nose. You probably don't need a whole lot of stuffing, but you want to give it enough so that the arms and the tail have some shape. With this, it might be helpful to use a chopstick or the end of a pencil or a pen to just make sure that you get it pushed all the way up into the top. And you can stuff it as much or as little as you want and just kind of play around with the shape. Okay. Now we are going to attach the arms, and we're going to do it just like we did with the mouth, where you want to kind of tuck that raw cut edge inside, and then you just want to place it on the body. And I'm going to just put a pin or two in just to kind of keep it in place so I know exactly where it should stay. Put one underneath. And with this one, we're going to use that kind of modified ladder stitch that we used for the mouth and for the ears. So I'm just going to start on the inside so that my knot is hidden, and then I'm just going to work from the body to the fold. of the arm. Our final step is to put our eyes on our monkey. So what you're going to want to do is have a double thickness of thread on your needle with a knot, and you are going to put your needle through on the face where you want your first eye. Then you can go ahead and put your button on. And then you're just going to want to do your stitches without getting all tangled up. There we go. It might take a little bit of time to kind of get used to doing your stitches on the already stuffed portion, but you still want to try to make sure your stitches are in pretty much the same location every time. And then I'm going to go the other way. It may help to put your needle through the hole first and then kind of slide that button out of the way so you can get it through the fabric where you want it. And then when you tie it off, you just want to kind of go under some of those stitches. And then do your loop like you normally do. And there is our completed monkey. Once you have completed the final steps, putting the arms and the tail and the eyes on your monkey, take a picture, take a couple of pictures, post them to the Google Classroom assignment, and I look forward to seeing all of your finished products.